Hello and welcome to LSJ News, your top stories this afternoon.
I know lots of people who I've spoken to over the past few months have choose to feed their kids over themselves, or one gentleman I spoke with a few weeks ago, he'd been sat in the dark for 3 days.
People in Lincoln are turning to help at food banks with the cost of living going up. We speak to one group who have handed out more parcels than ever before. Councillors defend the decision to approve a new takeaway on Lincoln's High Street. And as three horses died at the Cheltenham Festival this week, we hear from one animal rights group in Lincoln who say horse racing shouldn't go ahead. A food bank community hub team leader in Lincoln has said that they want to remove the stigma surrounding food banks as living costs continue to rise. Due to increasing prices, food banks have seen more and more people struggle to cope with the demands. Cameron Reid reports.
At the Community Bridge Hub, the team leader has seen the recent increase in people and wants to emphasise the normality of the situation. Increase in prices of petrol, bills and rent has meant many people are now being forced to seek help. However, they often find themselves too embarrassed to go to a food bank.
I would say that we've seen more families that would never have dreamt of using a food bank. I mean, really, as a food bank distribution centre, what we want to do, we don't want to normalise food banks, but we do want to take away a lot of the stigma, because a food bank is just a community sharing its resources. It's important to bear that in mind.
The Lincoln Food Bank was able to provide a record highest number of parcels in one day, with 89 given out to people in need. Difficult decisions such as choosing between turning the heating on or going to the shops to get food has now become a very common issue for many people.
I know lots of people who I've spoken to over the past few months have choose to feed their kids over themselves, or one gentleman I spoke with a few weeks ago, he'd been sat in the dark for 3 days whilst not having any food either, waiting for his benefits to be paid in. So there is, I think for a lot of people, like a big chunk of the population, I think it's a daily choice.
A study by the Office for National Statistics revealed that in February, 2/3 of adults living in Britain reported that in the last month their cost of living had increased. It means that food banks look set to continue to play a vital role in the community, helping to support vulnerable people and families for the foreseeable future. Cameron Reid, LSJ News.
City of Lincoln councillors have backed their decision to approve the planning application of a Lincoln takeaway on the High Street. This is despite 13 takeaways and neighbours in the area objecting their application. Nathan Matthew reports.
Coming soon to the bustling High Street of Lincoln is the famous Mr. Chippy takeaway, which has had planning applications approved by the council to transform an old charity shop into a hot food takeaway. However, there have been numerous takeaway owners objecting to the opening of the shop. Councillor Biff Bean explained why he has approved this application.
From my point of view, is the person already owned a hot food takeaway, so I looked at that and thought, well, if he's moving it across the road, in this instance, I would be happy with that. You know, I tend to be quite an honest person. I put myself in their shoes.
Although there have been calls by local neighbours to reduce the numbers of takeaways in the area, Councillor Callum Watt believes there is no real reason to do this.
It's a problem necessarily from a health standpoint. Now, if we saw evidence to suggest that reducing the number of takeaways in the city would improve the health of the city, that's something that we could then put in the Central Lincolnshire Plan, and then we could take it into consideration at planning meetings.
With an ease of access on the High Street to several takeaways, joint coordinator of the Lincolnshire Food Partnership, Laura Stratford, believes that the food culture in Lincoln will need to have a swift change in action to combat the rise of food takeaways.
What I'm more concerned about is the kind of cultural embeddedness of that sort of very limited palette, very limited food culture, whereas actually what we need right now at this moment of history is precisely the opposite of greater diversity, greater investment in like local food and good food and sustainable food.
Among this cathedral city, the mile-long strip of the High Street has numerous takeaways, which are all battling amongst each other to become Lincoln's favourite takeaway.
There are already over 25 takeaways on this section of the High Street, and with launch day just weeks away, Mr. Chippy hopes that it can become the top hot food contender in an already sizzling area. Nathan Matty, LSJ News.
A City of Lincoln councillor has hit back against Lincolnshire County Council, labelling them irresponsible as they try to block wind farm plans in the region. Portfolio holder for Lincolnshire County Council, Colin Davey, previously said that large wind turbines are not the right solution for central Lincolnshire in a meeting last month, but are not ruling them out. Our reporter David Bosworth has the story.
The final stages of the Central Lincolnshire Planning Committee's Plan 1 were presented at a meeting last month to members of the Lincolnshire County Council and the City of Lincoln Council. However, a point of contention was created when Councillor Colin Davey, Ingermel's Rural Division, raised objections to plans to construct medium to large wind turbines. According to fellow County Councillor Richard Wright for Ruskington, these objections will not impact on the consultation, saying that Councillor Davey was neither right nor wrong. The plan is now pending decision from the Planning Inspectorate. City of Lincoln Councillor Chris Burke for Park Ward recognises the significance of the County Council's viewpoint on the matter, but says he believes that local authorities need the option to develop industrial-scale wind farms, as well as solar production.
I have a responsibility to the current generation and to my grandchildren to make sure that they can grow up in a decent world. So I might not be desperately keen on littering the landscape of Britain with wind turbines, but I would rather do that than have future generations the subject of pollution.
Councillor Wright explained that wind farms won't be built on prime agricultural land, but also added that Lincolnshire has lots of land that isn't vital to the production of food. For instance, a sizable proportion is used to grow animal feed. Councillor Burke pointed out that the faster we get on with the production of renewable power, the better, especially with supplies under threat because of the Ukraine conflict and the knock-on effects of that. According to Councillor Wright, despite discussions at the meeting, other green forms of energy, such as solar farms, have their place, and says a balance needs to be struck when incorporating renewable energy into our infrastructure.
Is it more harmful to actually build wind turbines which are going to require fresh materials to build them, or is it more harmful to carry on just using fossil fuels and all the emissions that go with them? So it's a balance.
As the county pushes to increase its levels of green energy production, we can only hope that newer methods and mutual agreement are the way forward.
To sport now, a Lincoln animal rights group has told LSJ News that horse racing is unethical and race meetings shouldn't go ahead. It comes after there have been 3 fatalities at the Cheltenham Festival this week so far. Here to tell us more is Molly Bryan.
The Cheltenham Festival and the Grand National are some of the most well-known race days of the year. This year, across the sport, more safety measures have been implemented. Here in Lincolnshire, we host around 20 race days at Market Race in a year. Hannah Brown from the Lincoln Animal Rights Group believes the cruel sport should be banned.
The horse racing industry is very cruel and exploitative. And in an ideal world, obviously, I would like to see horse racing, not happening anymore. I'm very much against it. I think it is very immoral. My belief is that it shouldn't exist because I don't agree with using animals as entertainment.
Ollie Williams has a small yard and trains 12 horses on the Lincolnshire Wall. These horses are a mixture of flat and jumps horses. His racehorses' care and safety are at the forefront of his mind. He thinks a greater education and learning about the sport is needed.
I think you're always going to get people that are going to be negative towards it because that's just the human nature towards anything in life. To really help it, I think people have got to go horse racing. They've got to see how well the horses are looked after and go from there, really.
As the Cheltenham Festival looms ahead with its welfare concerns, it's clear that the same ones are here in Lincolnshire. But with new safety measures being taken across the sport and the Cheltenham Festival back to maximum capacity, horse racing seems to be more popular than ever. The sport is always going to be one of controversy, but it's clear here that the yard is full of happy and healthy horses.
Fighters from Lincoln showcased their talent in a national kickboxing event on Saturday. Ring wars took place at Lincoln Fight Factory, with the night consisting of K1 rules, kickboxing and boxing bouts, including a UK title fight. Our reporter Jack McDonald was down at the Fight Factory for the event and had this to say from the Brayford earlier. How was the event and how would you say it was a success?
We were treated to 4 hours of entertainment on Saturday night, from junior kickboxing bouts to boxers going blow for blow. Over 400 people were down at Lincoln Fight Factory, which created a tense atmosphere. 7 out of the 11 Lincoln Fight Factory fighters won their bouts, showcasing the talent people of Lincoln can offer.
And what are his plans for the future within kickboxing events?
So Sean told me in the past that the events had performances from musical artists in the intervals, but he felt that that was taking away from the whole purpose of the event, which was to showcase fighting. He hopes in the future he can have just a kickboxing event, but he knows that that won't be an easy task.
So until kickboxing's more mainstream, then I'll have to keep on with some boxing fights on there. But saying that, the people that come to watch the boxing often do leave saying, I really enjoyed that kickboxing. I didn't realise how good that was, which, you know, because we do have high-level kickboxing fights on.
That was boxing promoter Sean Burton, and thanks for that report, Jack. Still to come on today's programme, the charity making milkshakes in support of and helping the people in Ukraine. We'll have that later in the programme. Sunday saw the return of Lincoln's annual rowing competition, where more than 150 teams took part. Lincoln Rowing Centre have said a big thank you to everyone who competed. The event was really enjoyable and safe, and we are looking forward to next year already. Kieran Good reports.
The event was cancelled last year as a result of the pandemic, but with restrictions lifted, it was able to go ahead this time round. There were fears this morning that the event would be called off due to the high winds, but at 9 AM it was luckily given the green light. The annual series of races are the main source of funding for the Lincoln Rowing Centre, so for the club it was crucial that it went ahead.
It's their main funding event, so the entry fees, any profit from food sales or drink sales or things like that goes towards the club, and in obviously purchasing new equipment, boats, gym equipment, and being able to compete at other events.
The head takes place on the River Witham, starting at 5 Mile Bridge and finishing at the Lincoln Rowing Club at Stampend Lock. The event has taken place almost every year since it started in 2006 and welcomes men's, women's and mixed teams from all over the East Midlands. Lincoln's head race comes at the end of the winter season. Rowing clubs have been competing in similar long-distance competitions from as early as September.
Well, I mean, this is just one of the races that we sort of do, so I mean, it's hard to say sort of when being preparing for this. But I think the crews got set about 2 weeks ago. So, we're a squad and it's all mixing up and things, but generally a couple of weeks before the race we set the crews and sort of start training in them for it. Yeah.
Throughout the day there were races for all age groups, with teams from Newark, Nottingham, Acaster and Peterborough all taking part, as well as teams from the University of Lincoln and the Royal Air Force. The event started at 10:30 this morning, and 8 hours later the races are finished and the results are in. Despite initial weather fears, the Lincoln head went ahead, and for everyone involved it was certainly welcome to see its return to these waters.
With anticipation building for what is always one of the fastest races on the calendar, some riders are hoping for their highest ever finish. The city's race is electric, explosive, and every rider's dream race to win. Being the first event of this year, compared to the last event of last year, riders like Toby Jones will want to start as they mean to go on. With the start and finish atop Castle Hill, Lincoln Cathedral will be swarming with cycling fans. The route then flows through the countryside before looping back into the city centre, then onto the deadly famous Michaelgate climb. This year, the winner will receive £400 and the Cobblestone Trophy. In 2020, Rafa stepped in to save the Grand Prix due to COVID. However, things will look a little differently this year.
For sure, it's going to be one of the fastest races I've done. It's always a full gas race, especially as you come up through the town, up Michaelgate. It's always a full gas effort, and every time you get over it, you're pleased to be over the top of it, and you're just hanging on, really. Yeah.
Lincolnshire's only recognised baseball club is still happy to welcome new members as they prepare for their first ever season. The Rugby Warhammers were founded last April and have since recruited enough members to enter the local league, where they'll face teams from the likes of Hull, Sheffield and even Newcastle. Our reporter Yannick Stay paid them a visit.
It's quite an unusual sight for such a small rural town just about 11 miles northeast of Lincoln, a group of men playing baseball on 2 football pitches. But America's national pastime has indeed found a home in Rugby, a town with a population of just under 2,000. The Rugby Warhammers are ready for their first ever season, but they're also still keen on further growing the club.
Obviously we'd like to recruit more members, we want it to be a family club, we just want people to come here and enjoy being here, and obviously as that grows we go up the leagues, we'd like to form 2 teams, and within the future we'd really like to do a junior setup as well.
The club was only founded in April of 2021, but they've already recruited more than 20 players to become Lincolnshire's first ever and to this day only recognised baseball club. 4 friendlies last year and getting in touch with British Baseball, who are very keen for new teams to join their leagues, were enough for the side to gain approval.
Players are coming in from all over Lincolnshire to play here. We were told that some travel only 2 minutes while others live more than an hour away. The player living furthest away is coming in all the way from Spalding, which is nearly a 1.5-hour drive.
The team will enter the Single A division of the Northern Baseball League, which is the 4th tier of British baseball. There they will face teams from some very big cities, such as Sheffield and Newcastle. They hope those teams might underestimate the Warhammers because of the rural atmosphere. In terms of travelling to away games, they've also already drawn up plans.
It is a factor that we've had to think about, but I think what we'll do is car share, all chip in for fuel. We'll be in a few different cars and we'll be travelling. I think the furthest game we've got is Newcastle Nighthawks, which is around a 3-hour drive, but a lot of them are in Sheffield and not too far, so we're hoping between 1 and 2 hours travel is not actually too bad. We're willing to travel that far, definitely.
Rugby Warhammers are still happy to welcome new members who are interested in playing baseball to help make this first ever season a real home run. Yannick Stay, LSJ News.
Well, Yannick has certainly been about this week. Here he is again with the weather.
It's been a lovely day so far here in Lincoln as blue skies and sunshine open the day. Later this afternoon we expect more of that with sunny spells at first, followed by some clouds coming in from the northwest and temperatures reaching 12 degrees. The evening might see some spots of rain, but it will largely remain dry with long clear spells overnight and temperatures dropping as low as 2 degrees. Tomorrow we expect plenty more sunshine all day with temperatures of up to 14 degrees and small breezes.
A Lincoln cafe is raising money for the Sunflower of Peace charity with their Ukrainian-themed milkshakes. The Sunflower Shakes are Geeks Retreat's brand new milkshakes with a twist. They are served with bubblegum sauce and a yellow napkin in the colours of the Ukrainian flag. Geek Retreat will continue to raise money with the shake while the conflict in Ukraine continues.
We saw the Sunflower of Peace charity just as the sort of crisis came out, and we thought that was important to us. It's it's so close to home that we should do something, and yeah, that's why we picked that one. I think that I don't really understand it, and I think that's a lot of people's view on it, and I think that there's a lot of innocent people involved that shouldn't be, and that's kind of where we stand on that one. Someone before that if the Sunflower of Peace, if they stop taking donations because they reach their goal, we'll just find another charity that's involved with the same thing. So yeah.
The team at Siren Radio are hosting the drive time show City Vibe later this afternoon. Here's Sarah Buccieri and Lucy Mills with a preview of the show.
We saw the Sunflower of Peace charity.
Join us today at 4 p.m. on City Vibe on Siren Radio. We've got quite a lot of stories to talk about. We'll be talking about Ukraine and the crisis there.
And tomorrow is National Sleep Day, so we're going to be speaking about how many hours people in Lincoln get of sleep each night.
We'll also be talking about petrol, like the price increase that's going on everywhere at the minute, also in Lincoln. And
we've got the quiz where people are sending in the worst presents they've ever received. So if you have any bad presents you've ever received, Christmas, birthday, do let us know.
See you then.
You can catch City Vibe on Siren Radio at 4 p.m. It's on 107.3 FM and online at sirenonline.co.uk. And that's all for now here on LSJ News. Don't forget you can keep up to date with us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at LSJ Tweets or find us on Facebook and Instagram at LSJ News TV. Bye for now.